Hello and welcome to this episode of In the Trenches. I got a very special guest lined up for you today. He's an independent artist who has experienced the absolute highs and lows of the music industry. His self-reflection through his pitfalls is inspiring. I cannot wait for you guys to listen. So without any further ado, I present to you the artist known as BabyJake. So hello, do we? I gotta first ask you: do I call you Jake or do you want me to call you BabyJake?
Jake, preferably.
Preferably Jake.
I mean, BabyJake's cool too, but let's go with Jake.
How did BabyJake come to being BabyJake?
It's fun. They asked me this yesterday at the R Vinyl sessions too. It was just a joke. I was the biggest guy. I'm 6'5", as you saw when I walked in the room.
I was hugging your
your
torso.
Yeah, so it was a joke. It was a joke, like, in the studio. I used to work, I'm from Florida, from Fort Myers, so I used to work with guys in Miami that were producers and stuff, and they just started calling me BabyJake one day. And funny enough, they all worked in the Latino world of music, the Latin world of music. I was like the one white guy. Like, all of them like spoke Spanish, and like it was crazy. I had a crazy beginning in music.
Really, I was gonna ask you, was it heavy in your household, or was Dad blasting?
No, salsa. No, I love. First of all, today, like, my top 3 genres, which probably don't make sense with what I make. I mean, I listen to everything, but most of the time I'm listening to like house music, like very chill house music.
Sure,
like almost like, Saint Tropez, France, like house music. Okay. And then like salsa or bachata or merengue, like all of this stuff. I love all of it. So
it's eclectic.
I don't know how I guess because of this and because of being exposed to it early on in my career and being around those guys. Like, the first guy I ever signed to in music was Mark Anthony's nephew.
Okay.
So it was immediately like I was just shoved in this spot where.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
18. That was in Florida, right?
Yeah, but it was a production deal. It wasn't like a label deal. It was just like a deal with a producer where he's like, hey, I'm going to take you under my wing and, bring you around. I was already releasing music prior to that, but it's a crazy story. We can get into it if you want, but
we already kind of got into it in the kitchen where we just were, wait, we got to hold up here. We started talking about tone and everything. Yeah. We'll get into that, you know? So tell me, music was not being played in your house, or
it was being played, but it was, my mom is the only one my mom's from Lithuania. Oh. Immigrated here, didn't speak a lick of English, lived on a beach in Key West. Met my dad, they're divorced, but met my dad, who's a shrimp salesman from Texas.
A shrimp salesman from Texas.
He sells shrimp. That's what he does for a living. So, like, the combo of them was crazy to begin with. They're both great. I love them both. But my mom, like, there's a 20-year age gap. My dad's 73. Right?
Good man.
I turned 27 last Wednesday.
Okay. Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. And so the age gap is like, it's about, I think it's 18 years to be exact, between my mom and my dad. Okay. So my mom, especially coming from Europe, it was so cool. She was listening to like Depeche Mode, Phil Collins, like all of that stuff.
So far, I'm on par with her.
That was the stuff for her, like that, especially in Europe during that time. Like, they had a lot of discos. They had a lot of places to dance. That was kind of the music of Europe, I think. Okay. It was more so like dance music. It was exploding there. And my dad's like Crosby, Stills and Nash, Neil Young, like Bonnie Raitt, like all these people. So like I grew up with a nice eclectic variety of music. And then I played sports, like I said earlier. Yeah. So like obviously I listen to hip hop. Like when I was,
you can't be in the football weight room without.
No, and basketball was my primary, so even more so. Oh, shit. I mean, I loved basketball. That was my first love. I wanted to be a ball player. Okay. Before I ever got into music, I wanted to play basketball.
Do you still watch basketball?
I don't watch, but I play. Okay. I still play. Okay. I don't like to watch because then like people are like, "Hey, let's do this bracket, March Madness bracket.
Yeah,
let's do fantasy, like a fantasy league." I'm like, I don't have time for any of this shit anymore. It's the truth. I really don't. Sure. Like, I'm trying to stay busy as much as I can because it keeps me out of trouble, one. And two, it's when I'm happiest, I think, you know. I think I'm very happy when I'm busy, when I'm working on music. And like I said, I've been doing a lot of production now. There's a couple artists that I really enjoy that are like new and up and coming and that I'm working with. So I like to stay busy.
I'm the same way. I actually combust when I'm not busy. You know, insecurities through anxiety. And then I just start to beat myself down. Yeah. Really. And it, honestly, I'm not sure if it's ever gotten better. I just think that's what we deal with in our, I don't know, I'm a perfectionist. Yeah. You know? No, so therefore it's this, just constantly revolving cycle that I play with, you know, and when my family knows it. Yeah. My wife particularly, it's like you're happiest when you work. We are happiest when you work.
As a creative, especially. Exactly. I think most people are. Yes. I think humans are built to work. Yeah. You have to have a goal.
Have purpose.
And discipline and things like that. But especially in the creative mind where you're just like your entire career is like these pictures behind you, like putting your work out into the world. You know, like that's a crazy thing.
Scary.
Yeah. My buddy Adam just like posted on Instagram yesterday about it. He's like, man, oftentimes I just get on here and I just want to quit because we're told like put yourself out there. And then sometimes you're just smashed into the ground when you put yourself out there. You know, it's like crazy. I'm fortunately like, I come from a very like bark family. It's like yell at each other and then hug and you're fine. Like that's what
Mine too.
So I've had to learn how to be empathetic. Still working on it, but I think like in business it really helps me because like I don't read a TikTok comment or an Instagram comment that's like, oh, this song sounds like shit, bro, what are you trying to do? Like you're just a bootleg rock and roll star, wannabe little cowboy, whatever, you know, like it doesn't affect me. But I know people that it kills them. It kills them every time they read it. And like friends of mine that are much bigger artists than me that deal with that and just like don't have that, I guess, double-edged sword of like struggling with empathy, but also growing up in a family that was just like yell, hug, and we love each other. Over it, yeah, we still got each other's back. So it's kind of a crazy thing to think about monetizing an extension of yourself, which is what art is.
Absolutely. Now, are you good with? I'm not good with the business side. You know,
what do you mean? Am I good at it?
Good meaning, are you
I'm trying
on top? Are you on top of it? Do you know the blind alleys where you look down, you're like, I'm not going to do that one.
Sometimes,
you know, have you learned from mistakes? You know, pitfalls that I mean, obviously, yes. I mean, I already know that.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. You know, do you?
I mean. Long story short is this: by 19 years old, maybe I was 20, either 19 or 20. I think I was 19. I had signed to Republic. I was managed by Scooter Braun. Signed by Scooter and Republic. It was a combo deal.
Sure.
My agent was Marty Diamond at Paradigm and Sarah Ballwinkle. Like
you had the hitters.
All these heavy hitters. I'm like on text thread with Avery and Monty, you know?
Know them all.
And I make, let's say, mid six figures. And what do you think I do at 19? You know? Yep. You just think you're like, I'm from Fort Myers, Florida. Like I borrowed like $20 from my best friend, you know, 4 days before I got a 6-figure deal. That was a decent deal. So like in the next 2 years, I had the most fun of my life and I just like spent all the money. So that was the learning process for me, was realizing like, oh my God, you just went through X amount of dollars in 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
And also realizing, like, I was explaining this to somebody the other day. I feel like 25 to 27 is the first time these last 2 years, for a couple reasons. First time I've ever been like single for a prolonged period of time.
Okay.
Not relying on somebody else to coddle my emotions.
Exactly.
And also the first time that I've just taken a step back and been like, who the fuck is Jake?
Yeah.
Really? You know, because that's hard. It's hard to like take the alcohol away, take the people away, take like everything away to where you're just stripped down to bare, you know, minimum of who you really are.
Yeah.
And once you do that, once you strip everything away, it was hard, man. Like I was addicted to company for sure. For sure. I didn't know how.
I think we all are creative. We're very vulnerable and we live in that vulnerable space. So
I didn't know
comforting.
how to be alone. Like it took me a year, straight up a year of forcing myself to primarily be alone a lot of the time and be sober.
Yeah, with no vices.
No vices.
Exactly.
And that includes another hard one for me was sex for a long time, you know? So like finally the last year and a half, I've been like, okay, I'm happy alone. I like my house. I love my dog. Like, you know, I like making, like I said, what I've realized now is the stuff that made me happy in the beginning was the creation of the art.
Yeah.
That you really get away from because your brain just goes straight into like this world when you get skyrocketed to this point where it's just like, my first song is like platinum now or something, you know, and it's still my biggest song, which is crazy. You know, it's just like the first one was like, bam.
Is that Cigarettes on Patios?
Yeah, you know, like that. Yeah. That was the first one that just hit, and usually it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays more so, but like it was just crazy to get launched in there. I never had any time to explore myself, and that's really why. Like, I mean, that's why I moved to Nashville. That's why I shifted and made a genre shift and went alternative because like that's where I come from. That's what I like. That's kind of what I always wanted to do. I was just trying to get in music to begin with.
I relate 100% to what you're saying. I
for years, I was just trying to get in. So then once I was there, it happened a lot quicker than I thought. So you don't realize that it happened. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? You're still in that.
Absolutely. I had a similar, not in the 6-figure deal necessarily, but like just my career popped off young doing Bone Thugs and Harmony videos and Exhibit, Eminem and Good Charlottes and all those things that on a creative level, there's two things going on. From a personal level, there's growth. And then on a creative level, same thing. So let's just talk about the creative level. I was just kind of stoked to be in and to be popping, right? And so what was I doing? Even though the work was memorable and iconic, I do feel like I was just reverse engineering what the big boys were doing.
Yeah.
To get, you know, I mean, I was just doing what they're doing on a cheaper level, and I'm in. Yeah. So then flash forward to the work I've been doing for the latter part of 10 years. It's hard for me to look back and like what I did.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It wasn't what fed me to do what I was really doing. I was just reverse engineering that, you know. And on a personal side of that lack of growth, it was explained to me, and I might have said this earlier on a different episode, but I was imploding. I was falling in a downward spiral. I went to a priest, and he explained to me that early success, like in baseball, you have your home plate, which is self. And then you have first base, which is friends, family. And then you have up here your friends. And then on third, you have your career. So many times, we crack that ball and we go straight to third.
Oh, yeah.
And then as you're rounding second, your friends and your people, you're now heading home to your family. But you're realizing you're about to get out. You're playing the wrong rules of the game.
Totally.
So what do you have to do? You got to reverse it all. Start back to self. Restructure your mind and start back at family. And play the rules of the game. Yeah. And we don't learn that until we are literally rounding second, about to lose the game.
Yeah.
And now you, me, people like us who can get rid of vices and all these things have such a perspective and assurance.
Yeah.
Assurance.
Yeah.
That what you're doing is right, whether it's working or not. You're following in the true self of you. Anyway.
No, I agree. I think sometimes it gets a little lonely for me because like a lot of people that are in their mid-20s are just like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, I've already done so much cool shit. Like I've like these people go out and drink a lot. And I'm not saying, look, I've introduced like things back into my life in a healthy balance most of the time. I'm also the type of person who just goes, I'm hermit mode for like 3 months and like sober. And then for 2 weeks, I'm just like off the chains.
You go on a kick.
Which is fine. Like I don't do any hard drugs anymore. I don't do any of that, but like I'll still drink occasionally and stuff like that. But I get sometimes really lonely when I look around and I'm just like, man, these people want something that's not that great. Because like I've been in Los Angeles, and I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to say it's not that special. I've been in LA with the celebrities that you think are really cool, and then you realize like 60% of them are lame. You're like, these people aren't even happy. You know, they're 45 years old, single, like flirting with 18-year-old girls. Like that's not happiness, you know? At least not like for longevity at all. So
while you were going in your record deal though, where did you learn? How did you learn that this ain't it?
Well,
I kind of like what?
No, I mean it's I went broke. One, so
okay, that'll do it.
Yeah,
that'll kickstart.
when you like you can't continue hanging with some of these people, and some of the people like I got good friends of mine that are just so rich that I couldn't like when I got a little bit of money, I thought I could hang with them.
Sure,
you know, I'm just like, oh, I got this. But like one of my buddies is worth like he sold his company to CBS Viacom. He's worth like, you know, $100 million or whatever it is, you know, and so I think it's a combo of like, going broke or not totally broke, but losing a lot of money. Not losing. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of money quickly.
Sure.
In your youth. And also, you know, just like realizing as you're with a label who you signed with to do pop music, you don't want to do pop music. You want to do alternative music. Slowly starting to realize that everybody around you that you work with, that you respect, is saying, yo, you got a voice that's made for like, you know, live instruments. Like you got a powerful voice. Why don't you use it in this capacity, you know?
Yeah.
And starting to realize, oh yeah, it does really sound good over this stuff. So, I mean, it was just a multitude of like finances, emotions. I got sick and got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease at one point, I was like 3 months bedridden. That was horrible. So a lot of this stuff that just made me realize, hey, like I need to take control. And at the time I was dating a wonderful woman too, who was amazing, we had a very close relationship. We're no longer together, obviously, but I still wish her the best in everything. And we moved to Nashville together because we both kind of felt like, hey, Los Angeles is just like eating us up.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
toxic.
Like we can't be here anymore. We don't feel like we're growing anymore. It just feels like this kind of rat race. And, you know, thankfully where the world is now, the digital thing can be looked at in two ways, and it really is a double-edged sword. It's horrible in some ways. There's temptations at your fingertips in all aspects, but it's also great because you can do anything from anywhere. You know, like I can go to Spain and bring my guitar and bring like a outlet converter, and my Apollo Twin and record an album, and put it out a week later if I wanted to. Not saying I would, but that's absurd that you can do that. You know, I just put out an album called Demos That Never Made It, Part 1, which was just voice memos. And this girl from a brand that I really respect, who's the creative director of this brand, 2 days ago was like, hey, she reached out to me. I didn't know who she was. She reached out. She's like, I love this song. And I was like, really? The 1 minute, 30-second long voice memo that I put on Spotify? And she's like, yeah, it's so, I listen to it like 3 times a day. I'm like, man, this world we live in is so interesting.
You don't know what's going to hit or whatever.
And,
so
and like, obviously I wasn't trying to, it wasn't like a serious, well, let me take that back again. It was a serious thing, but it wasn't meant to be listened to as like a produced out album. It was meant to be demos that never made it, part 1, you know, which is cool. It's cool to see people like enjoy that. Yeah. You know, it just goes to show, sorry, it's my dad. Declined. I love you, Dad. He'll definitely watch this.
That's awesome.
But yeah, what was I saying? I don't even remember.
Troy.
Sorry, the phone
got me off track.
Yeah, okay, let me think.
Demo.
Oh,
Demo.
Yeah.
Demo.
It's just, you see people like Mac DeMarco, who put out like 100-song album, and it's just like the title's like May 12th, 2018.
Yeah.
And I respect that because I'm like, man, I have hundreds of ideas that just died because I never put them out at a certain time and just let them breathe because I didn't feel they were good enough, or so-and-so said it wasn't going to work, or the label didn't like it, or whatever. And I'm just trying to get to a point where, like, and this goes into our combo about tone, I think it's really important to notice that for the last 20 years, really ever since, just musically at least, and I'm sure you can maybe relate visually too, for the last 20 years musically, since Pro Tools has been a big thing, you know, which was big in the 90s, but people were still tracking through consoles.
Yeah.
Since really, you know, digital DAWs came out and everybody started using that, I feel like Grid became huge. Click became huge. Not to say it wasn't. Tom Petty used Click. Yeah. But like it became, everything was locked to this Grid. And then you had T-Pain, you know, use auto-tune. And then it was, oh, shit, we can put like something that's not in pitch and pitch.
Yeah.
So now for the last 20 years, for the most part, your pop music has been this kind of locked to a grid perfect thing. And I feel like finally now, and I'm not saying that's bad, I like pop music too. I just think finally now people are starting to almost appreciate when something's imperfect more than when it's perfect. For one of the, you know, like first times ever, I feel like in the last 20, maybe 30 years. Even the 90s, even parts of the 90s started to get like that, especially in pop and hip hop. And I feel like now it's like, man, I've realized that I've tried to be perfect for so long, and that's just not something to strive for. You're supposed to strive for being imperfect, but enjoying the imperfections, you know, and understanding that it's, if you're a human, you're going to be flat sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like I love Wilco. Jeff Tweedy's always flat. You know, I love Bob Dylan. He's always flat. Speaking of Bob Dylan, he's coming to Brooklyn Bowl. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah, he's
That's
playing.
amazing.
1,500 person crowd. Ticket, you should go.
You gonna try to go?
I already got a ticket. But you get my point.
I do.
Imperfection is perfection.
And that is what we are dealing with on the visual side of things as well.
Yeah,
and
I'm not very familiar with that.
It's very much one and of the same. It's people feel like they've been duped enough with glitz and, you know, perfection.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we all are feeling vulnerable. So yes, that has definitely crossed over into our world for sure.
And there's a reason that, like, you know, a lot of people say, okay, well, this is happening because, you know, there's a trend. Excuse me. It's the soda water. There's a trend. I love it though. There's a trend, you know, some people will say there's a trend going on, you know, where young college girls want to use film cameras or whatever. But I'm like, yeah, but there's got to be a reason that the trend is happening. And the reason that like all the film came back, the reason that the tape is coming back, the reason that people are going, whoa, it's all right, just leave it a little out of tune, is because people want that. You know, it wouldn't be coming back if it was just purely because of nostalgia. That's not how things work. Yeah. When people have nostalgia, they get so inspired by that and of that piece of the past that they want to recreate it in their own way. You know, and like we talked about, like, for a long time, I was around a lot of people, and I love some of these people. Like one of my best friends in LA, he was always trying to make something new. And like, I got in that mindset of like, oh no, we got to make something different. And now I'm just like, man, fuck that. If I like some chords from a song, I'm just going to go to that song. I'm going to grab the chords. I'm going to be like, let me put a capo on like the 3rd fret and use the same chords, or turn them backwards, or switch the, you know, like art in itself, none of us are original. Agreed. You can make it original by not copying everything about it. But just because you take 5 or 10% of something else doesn't mean that it can't live on its own. So I think it's a tough thing when you get in the mentality of being like, we got to be different. It's like, at what point are you just trying to like be avant-garde? I don't want to be avant-garde, man. I don't even know if I want to be a superstar anymore. Would it be cool if I do it on my own terms? Sure. But what I like more is just to be an artist for my entirety of my life and pay my bills that way.
And be comfortable inside.
Yeah. Have a family that way. Like, I want a family. I want a wife. these are my dreams. I want a nice home. Yeah, I want a home on the water with a jet ski in Miami too. But if I don't get that, doesn't mean I'm going to be unhappy.
Sure.
You know, I just think people strive, and me included, for a long time. I just strived for this thing that was like, if I don't get here, I didn't do it. But there is no here.
Yeah.
There's no here. It's just, you got to love what you're doing. You got to love the process of what you're doing. You got to love making music or shooting videos or shooting photos or giving speeches. It's not like, a lot of people get caught in that, not just in the creative realm. A lot of people get caught in the realm of like, you know, I'm a business consultant, and now I've ranked my way up to VP of business consulting at, you know, whatever big consulting firm it is. And then they get there and they go, what's next? I guess I got to go COO. It's like, no, you don't really have to. Do you like giving presentations? That's the question, you know?
Do you feel, I mean, business obviously can contaminate the creative, you know, and you being independent and being able to control your art, but now you're writing checks, so to speak. You know what I mean? I remember on set when I first started my own production company, because I couldn't be giving away 15%, right? Back to what you said, I wanted the control. I remember being on set and action. Signing OT checks. Yep. You know, so after a while of doing that, it does filter in. Has that happened with you, or how do you navigate that? To keep it fun, to keep it inspiring, but also
I like
not
the
get
business side one.
Okay, that's what I was asking about 30 minutes ago. Is like, where do you? But you didn't always like the business side. I bet you had to fuck up.
Yes, I did.
And that because of that.
Yes, correct.
Exactly. That's where I'm at.
I didn't like the business side because I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I didn't like the business side because I couldn't read a contract and go, okay, these are where the master points are coming out of. This is a recoupable. This is non-recoupable.
Sure.
This is a fund for this. This is what this means. This is how much they're going to get paid. This is why they're getting paid net or gross or whatever. I love it now because it's I can see tangible growth, you know, and I understand how to move things. It doesn't mean all the time I'm doing great, but I love to, for now, be on top of all of it and really encourage myself and even force myself at times to be on top of it. Like, I'm even going as far as trying to start learning how to do not learning, but I've done it kind of briefly before, but now I want to start doing, you know, getting involved with all the people when they throw a festival. I want to be the one handling the back line. I want to be the one handling, okay, this is what we need. This is this, just so I know how to do the communication. Cool. You know, I think it's very beneficial to have a team, but I think it's got to be the right people. And I heard somebody say this, not just in business terms, but like, look, there's people on the planet that aren't meant to be friends. Yeah. And that's okay. That's okay to meet somebody who does something totally different than you and has a completely different vibe than you, and you don't vibe. Like, I don't know what this thing is now where like it just has to work out all the time. You have to be like amicable and like, you know, polite. Like, look, the people I grew up with in Fort Myers, Florida are not amicable and polite all the time. Some of my friends that are, you know, now grown ass men are like, you know, it's a different world. So I've seen both of like everybody, you know, shaking hands saying, yeah, the record's great. And then behind the back, I fucking hate that song. You know, like I kind of tell it like it is. Sure. And to a fault sometimes. Sometimes I'm too blunt. But I would rather be too blunt than be lying to people. So it's kind of like you a team is necessary to be great. I believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't think you can do everything yourself. Sure. But the team has to feel like you're one. It shouldn't feel like 5 separate
departments.
People. Yeah. Like, I'm very fortunate now to be in a case where over the last 2 years I've been building a team that feels like one. And I'm very thankful because a lot of these people came in, like my lawyer came in when I wasn't even out of my Republic deal. He negotiated for $0 me getting out of my Republic deal, you know? So that takes belief. Like, I like when somebody gets on board because, like my lawyer, because he goes, yeah, I like the music, I'm in. It wasn't like, what are you making? Yeah. You know, what are we going to get paid? you know, this, that. And like now it's worked out. Now they get paid.
Yeah.
You know, but like
Put some skin in the game.
it was amazing to get that. I never had that because I was just, like I said earlier, launched into the space where it was just all these top dogs saying all this shit.
That you had to listen to.
That I had
blindly almost.
Yeah,
not almost, always.
Because I was scared. I was scared to voice my opinion. That's the one regret I have is I wish I would have voiced my opinion more often in the beginning. And they were not like a typical label situation where they're like, you got to make records like this. They let me do what I wanted to do. But I still wouldn't speak my mind because of the nervousness of being like, oh shit, I'm sitting across the table from Scooter Braun.
Yeah. Who,
by the way, is a great guy.
Yeah.
I still have a good relationship with him throughout all this. There's other people, maybe not so much, but it's that's the one thing that if I could go back, but like you said, if I did go back, maybe I wouldn't have the knowledge of doing all these fuck ups to know now, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Everything you're saying to me of who Jake is now is I'm relating to everything and or learning, to be honest. Some of the things you're saying I'm taking very closely. So thank you for that. But it seems very much like these are all things you've learned. Yeah. And they're for a reason. You can't sustain it that way. Yeah. You're gonna implode either way.
Yes.
So you're either gonna quit and be done, or you're gonna get back up and accept your loss, or take the hit and rebuild.
I mean, look at Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
You know, one of the highest paid players, best players of all time.
Yeah.
Goes broke. Like that shit could happen.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen to Post Malone, but it could. It could.
I mean, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. My inkling is telling me that Post is a smart enough guy to have a good financial advisor.
Yeah, I would think.
But I mean, even more so in the past. Really, all you got to do is go look at the people who were recording artists from like the 50s through the 90s.
Yeah.
Like there's so many. It's amazing when you watch, you know, like biopics or whatever bioseries like Cadillac Records, you know, and you see like, oh wow, this is how black blues music was abused for 20 years, 30 years. Like this is crazy. Yeah. It's like some of these artists, I mean, look at Michael Jackson, like the Jackson 5 in the beginning. Yep. They were making bread and never getting paid, getting abused left and right. So it's a crazy industry, you know, to be in. And it's not just this. Again, it's not just, I don't want to relate everything to the entertainment industry because everything in the world has its quarrels. You know what I mean? Like medical industry is the same way.
Oh, Jesus. Pharmaceuticals and all that. So let's get back to tone.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's a good shift where your music from the pop stuff that you were more scared to kind of get into your own self. So where did your tone, how did it change to where you want to go now? Like it's more of a 70s rock?
Yeah, I mean, okay. This is a good question. How do I phrase this? I feel like I'm on a pendulum. Mm-hmm. I feel like most people are. And you swing, and you got to learn a lot to get here. And then you'll still go like this, but you're not going to go like this, hopefully. Yeah. Maybe you will. Yeah. Maybe I'll change my name to Snoop Lion and do reggae music. You know, who knows? But and I probably will one day. But when I was with, see, this is a part. Also, this is maybe another thing that I regret is that I was too naive and too young and too stupid. But I had to learn the lesson. Yeah. That I blamed everything on the major label, on the management, on anything that was around me at the time besides myself.
Sure.
So the pendulum was here, right? Like, and I was just like what we were talking about earlier on, trying to make music to get me there. Yeah. And then once I was already there, it took me years to realize, oh, wait, I'm here. Like, what do I want to do? Yep. So then I was already starting to make alternative music, like The Head in the Clouds, The Confidant, kind of the second project. And then I really started diving into it and really wanted to do it. And I started, that's not, and there's nothing against Scooter in this regard, but that's not his pocket. Yeah. That's not what he does. He makes pop artists, you know, and he's been successful in that. So when I went from here and I started making alternative music, I just swung like this. Boom. Okay. Like I got an album that has been done for 2 years that hasn't come out yet, that will come out. That's real. Like the first rock album I put out was 70s. This one's like 60s, 70s music to the max, you know, and it sounds modern. It's great mixed. I'm just waiting to figure out the logistics of it because we were making it under, you know, the understanding that the label was going to pay for it at the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of, you know, things that were boxes that we're checking off, making sure musicians get paid, making sure mixer gets paid, making sure the producer is properly compensated. So it's taken a while, but that's fine. It's still going to come out one day, but I swung all the way over here. So I grew my hair out. I tossed my whole wardrobe. I started wearing bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Started wearing this, like almost like a rebellious teenage girl, you know, like that's where I swung. And so then like now I feel like with the acoustic record and this new record that I'm mixing right now, I have an album that I'm mixing right now, actually. The guy's doing the first single today.
Okay.
Which is, I'm very excited about. And I keep in mind, I've always produced and written, but I didn't have the confidence to say I was a producer or, you know, particularly like a musician. But like, I can play piano pretty decently well. I can play guitar pretty decently. I can play pretty much anything pretty decently well, besides drums. I'm pretty mediocre at drums.
Okay.
But that's different. And I swung like this for a second, and now I finally feel here to where for the first time since I was, you know, probably 2015, 17, 18 years old, I'm just making music that I like.
Yeah.
And the only like requirement to me, and this is not even a solid thing, for now it's solid because I really enjoy it, is that there has to be live instruments.
Okay.
Because of how I feel when I play on stage with a live band.
Okay.
What changed everything for me was when I heard the pop records with backing tracks, with a sample pad on the drums, and I went, this doesn't feel right. For me, personally, for some people.
Too polished, too romanced.
Too fake. I hate to say it like that, but for me,
it's
too
not
fake.
real humans playing, and it's not a real sound coming from a man or a woman.
It just felt fake to me. It felt not like what I dreamt of doing. Sure. And I'm a dreamer, and I always will be. So that's why I swung so far in that direction, only to realize, okay, all right, dude, hold on. What are you really? Like I said, the last 2.5 years, pretty much since I broke up with my ex, who was the most awesome learning experience too with her. You know, we just didn't work out. There was nothing, nobody cheated on each other, nothing like that. We just split. That's it. It was really hard. It was a tough decision for me. But really, she was the one who kind of started egging me in that direction and being like, yeah, but who are you? You know, like I was she wasn't saying it, but she was making me feel it. And then once I got out of that, I think I needed to get out of that to really realize, who am I? Like I said, it's so important to the music. Who really am I? And like, do I want this long hair? And do I want this? And do I want that? And what am I really? And now finally, and you're always changing, right? You're always changing. You're always going through phases. But finally now, in the last, like, since I've been independent, I put out the kind of 70s leaning rock album. I put out the acoustic album, and now I'm putting out this album that's more like 90s meets modern influence rock stuff. You know, and
where is Rude and what is it?
Rude, Crude,
and Uncouth.
That's like acoustic. You know, that's just like my folk.
I love that.
Thanks.
Love that record.
Thank you,
album.
man. That's my folk side.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I started in. In 2016, I had a record under Jake Herring that was a folk record that you can find one single from, because in the process of rebranding with the major and everything, we took everything down, which I wish I wouldn't have done now. But to get back to my point, like, I still wear bell bottoms because I love them, but I don't wear bell bottoms because I want to look like the Rolling Stones. I did. So now I'm finally in the place where I go, okay, yeah, maybe I want to wear a sweater today. And that's okay. I don't have to do this because this is what this is. I got to be me, you know, and I got to realize that whatever I am is okay. And the more honest I can be about that, the more fun I'm going to have, the more success I'm going to have. I'm not a social media guy. I never have been. I'm starting to form a positive relationship with it. But like, I'm a guy who likes to play live music and likes to release music. So I finally sat down with myself and said, look, these are the two things you need to just dial to 10. You need to crank the knobs on these two things to 10. Everything else will follow. Just trust yourself and release music and make music that you love. And like, there's nothing more, like we were talking about earlier, that I love. Well, now it's tied performing live. It's great when you got 1,000 people in front of you and and they know the lyrics. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing feeling too. But tied with that is just being in the studio, being in my house, similar to like right now where we are in your house. I got my studio room. I got all my stuff laid out how I like it. Got my drum room upstairs with a hole I drilled through the attic that has a snake that goes up there with some outputs. And like, I've just gotten to this point with this project where I'm like, oh man, finally, like I can just, if I want to make a song with 10 people, I can. If I want to make a song by myself, I can. I'm confident in both. And I'm finally making music because I enjoy making music again. For a time, I didn't. For a time, I really didn't. I was so caught up in being like, holy fuck, I'm in this deal I hate. I'm not agreeing with the people. I'm in debt. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a relationship. I don't know if I'm still happy yet, happy anymore. And like, it was just so much, it felt like so much burden on my shoulders that I had to sort through all that bullshit before I ever got back to just making music to make music.
Yeah.
So that's where I feel like I am now. Like this next project that I'm going to put out that I've been working on for, 2-3 months is not like anything else I put out. I mean, there's going to be hints of stuff, but it's not, I don't make music like that. Like I need to stop. I have stopped, but I needed to stop looking at things like I want to be this or I want to be that. I just have to be me.
Because what also I would imagine has changed. We talked about it earlier. We didn't go too heavy on it, but when you released music, you were scared, right? Maybe because of all that drama, all that stuff that it's not you or it's not that. Now when you release music, are you?
I love it.
Exactly. You're pumped to get it out.
Yeah.
Versus, when you're not being true to yourself and you're in a deal that you don't want to be in.
Totally.
That is coming through into your music. Therefore, you are kind of like, I hope you like it.
Yeah.
Versus now you're like, get it out. Yeah.
Oh, and even if people don't like it, now I just don't care.
Yeah.
Now I put it out and I go, okay, like, and like I said, my dad's my best friend. And like, he's at 73 years old. This dude's calling me after a song comes out, like, hey, you're tracking at like 5,320 streams a day. Like, he's like on top of it.
That's
It's
great.
like he's living his dreams out to be a singer. He wanted to be a singer.
Okay.
So he's living his dreams out through me and he loves it. And so like, when I got somebody like that who I'm talking to and we're on the phone and he goes, look, you did it once. He's like, you already have songs that hit.
Yeah.
The recipe's proven. You can do it. We already know you can do it. He's like, now all you got to do is focus like I focused for 45 years being a shrimp salesman. Build your clientele, tour, release music. You love doing both of those things. Focus on that. That's it. They'll come. It'll come, especially now. It's a time now where like you have songs, and we don't know what's going to happen after today with the TikTok thing, but you have songs, coming out on TikTok that were bossa nova records from 1970 that never saw the light of day, that now have 100 million streams because some girl used it or some guy used it on a fishing video or whatever. It's crazy. I forgot who it was, but there was this woman from the 80s, I don't remember who it was, whose song went viral on TikTok. And she said, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. She's in her 50s.
Oh, shit.
It's an amazing time we're in. You can look at things optimistically or you can look at them pessimistically. I look at them optimistically. Yeah. And oftentimes I look at them pessimistically too.
Sure.
But I try to be optimistic. I try to end everything very optimistic because if you look at it bad, it's going to be bad. If you look at it good, most likely, if you have belief, hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah.
And I think right now, like the most important thing for any type of artist or person in general is to just realize that we are in the most accessible time, minute by minute, this second, now it's 2:05, 26, 27, 28. Every second that goes by, we're becoming more and more accessible. Every second that goes by, there's more people on the internet. Every second that goes by, there's more people that are on Spotify. Every second that goes by, there's more people listening to audiobooks. There's never been a better time. We can sit here and bitch about how much Spotify and Apple Music are paying us, or you can just do what you know you're good at, which is release music, record music, tour music, and eventually something will work if you believe. if you're being yourself.
Sure.
I truthfully believe that in every aspect of life. But you got to love what you're doing.
Yeah. So you don't fall. I mean, at one point in your career, we followed the Joneses in a way, right?
Totally.
It sounds like I don't. People, and in my industry, people know that I'm kind of a maverick, and I've been told that. Kind of flying alone.
Yeah.
Is that how you operate? You're
Now,
not following.
yes.
You're not feeling the pressure to drop certain content or whatever. You will release content or visuals when they are appropriate and ready.
Yes.
To be released.
Yeah, and like I said, now I've formed a good relationship with social media where I'm amped about the stuff I'm doing. Like I got these songs and I was talking to Bobby, the guy I was talking about earlier, and I was going, man, we were thinking of ideas. And I said, the next album is going to be called Beautiful Blue Collar Boy, because I realized, like I said, the pendulum's swaying, and what I realized is, I'm a normal guy.
Yeah.
Like I like to, when I got this house in July, I bought the house in July. When I bought it, I painted the whole house with me and my friends. I replaced the kitchen countertop with butcher block. Like I like doing that stuff. It makes me feel good. I like to go work out every day. I like to go play basketball. I'm like a normal guy.
Yeah.
I'm just a normal guy who just happens to write music and be very emotional and creative, which I think, again, my own opinion, most people probably are creative. They probably just don't get encouraged to tap into it.
Sure.
What was the original question? Sorry.
Well, I mean, to me, it's
do you fly alone?
Yes,
you were
fly
like,
alone.
Do you fly
yeah.
alone? Yes. So I'm in a point now where I realize that I'm doing all of these things and I'm thinking of all these things. And I was sitting there with Bobby and we're crashing each other's heads. And I go, man, I want to wear a suit. I want the whole band to wear a suit, which I'm a solo artist, but I like the band being with me because that's how I play.
Yeah.
And I call BabyJake and the Mojo and when we play live. And so I said, I want us to all wear suits, like 70s pinstripe and blue and gray suits, some sunglasses or something. I just want to do like an old school music video where you're just performing. Mm-hmm. And I said, maybe we'll do that for all 4 singles. I'm not thinking about what's going to hit, what's going to do well here, what's going to do this. I'm just like trying to do what I like, and that's it. And finally, like I said, I have a good relationship with content and social media to where I feel like I'm not looking even at numbers anymore. I'm just like posting what I like, putting it out there and being myself. And the more I'm myself, the more better things do, like the better that everything goes whenever I'm just like, let go of all this shit. Stop. Don't listen to and obviously when you're with a team, a lot of your team sometimes will be like, well, we got to do, here's the schedule for release. I said, nah, I'm going to post what I want to post when I want to post it. And I'm going to put it out. And people are either going to like the music and the content or they're not. And the more that you try to force somebody to like something, the worse that it is, I loved eggs till I was like 6 years old. Then my mom tried to force feed them to me and I hated them. And then finally my mom realized I went to college for a year. I dropped out. I went to college. And by the time I was 20, 21 years old, I'm back at home. I was cooking eggs at my mom's house. She said, you don't eat eggs. I said, I love eggs. What are you talking about? I started eating eggs again because I wasn't being forced to eat them anymore. Yeah. And so I think whenever you're forced to get something, and I don't mean, it's a very fine line because I don't think it's bad to push your music a lot, but I think people feel whether you're doing it forcefully or whether you're doing it because you like the song and you're really amped up about it.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I don't plan on filming certain videos certain ways to engage better on TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I just think it shouldn't be forced. It should be coming from the goodness of your heart that says, I love this song. Like, I want you guys to love it. And if you do love it, great. If you don't, great.
Now, would you, I agree. Would this also be something we learned from the Republic days where you had big budgets for shoots?
Totally.
And you're being told.
Yeah.
Where I remember the old days of videos and they were $300,000.
Yeah.
And I was literally telling the musicians how to perform.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Like,
also,
I was like, at a certain point, I'm like, I'm not going to tell these guys how to dress.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell them how to perform. Don't cross this line because you're not lit. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
But now, so when you left that play box, was it, a lot of that learned what not to do to just be comfortable again? I mean, I already know the answer, but I'd like you to elaborate on it from your experience.
Well, I think there was a couple of things. One, the financial thing, which is when you do have a budget like that, it's coming out of the artist cut.
Yeah. A lot of
which nobody tells you.
Explain to that so people will understand that, because nobody tells. I
No.
mean, there's many different ways, but
I say this all the time. I don't, and for a long time, and there's probably some podcasts you can watch me on or some interviews from like 2 years ago, I'm like, fuck the label. I don't believe that. I don't believe fuck major labels. Do I think their deals are the fairest? No. But I'm not saying fuck major labels. The main people I have problems with, which is just a classic telltale thing for as long as time, are lawyers. Lawyers. Because nobody sits down with you unless you have a great lawyer, which I didn't at the time. I had a guy who was, getting his paycheck, understandably.
Yeah.
And thought I understood. He just had been dealing with guys that, big artists that understood.
Yeah.
Or maybe they didn't. Maybe he just thought that they understood because he was a lawyer.
Sure.
And you don't think about other people not understanding it because it's so basic to you.
Yeah.
But you're talking to a 19-year-old kid. He's signing to a record label, and nobody sits down and goes, hey, okay, here's the contract, but we just want to clarify. Hey, here are the bullet points. If you have a marketing spend, that's going to come out of your back-end recoupment. If you have a video, that expense is going to come out on most 360 deals.
Yes.
Going to come out of your back-end recoupment. If you have a styling budget. I didn't realize any of this. I was spending all this money because people are like, let's do this, let's do that. They're amped up.
Yeah.
Nobody's sitting there going, hey, by the
You're
way,
paying it.
You're paying for this. And you're not paying for this out of 100%.
Yeah, that pink elephant going down Main Street, that's you.
You're paying for this out of if you're lucky, like my deal was a good deal, your 18% that you have of the masters. You're not recouping from 100%. You're recouping from your 18%. Most people are signed to like a deal 15%, 16%. And then on top of that, you're the one paying the producer too.
Yeah.
So if you got 3 big
Production.
producers, like I remember, I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to say the name, but I remember getting introduced to this very awesome guy actually and big producer from Scooter. And like, thank God I knew I was starting to figure these things out at the time, because this guy's rate is like $50,000 a track. And then he takes like 2 points on the master. That's coming out of your side. Yeah. The label doesn't go, yeah, let's take our 82% or our 80% or our 85% and give 2% to, no, they're like, hey, the artist who has 18% who needs to recoup, I don't know, let's make it easy, $100,000 from the 18%. Let's take 2% more away from him. Oh, there's a co-producer, let's take another % away. So it's crazy. It's like Cigarettes on Patios, all of my records under Republic have made like $1.5 million, give or take. Right? I'm probably not even, I would say, halfway recouped because of how much was spent on things that I didn't understand were going to come out of my pocket. Like I mean,
they get you for FedEx. I mean, I know everything.
Nobody told me. Nobody, even my day-to-day managers and stuff, nobody thought, because again, at the time I was just, all these people that deal with, and it just honestly could, there's two ways that it could be. It could be that they didn't want to tell you, or it could be that they've just been working in this industry for 20 years or 15 years, and they're used to dealing with all these huge people that their teams understand it. But when you're a young kid, my biggest problem with record labels and the music industry in general, whether it's a manager or a label, a publisher, an agent, is that nobody sits down and goes, hey, here's the 20 bullet points. Here's what we're going to do. Here's where your money's going to come out of. Here's where this budget's going to come from. I have my quarrels with the lawyers. The label, look, you want to be Harry Styles? You can't do it independently. You want to be The Weeknd? You can't do it independently. Yeah. And people say, well, it's just money. It's not just money. I don't care what people say. I've been in the system. It's not just money. You cannot, go to an investor, or you could go to a private investor probably and go, hey, I'm The Weeknd. I need $100 million up front for my tour costs, and The private investor might give it to you, but he has no idea. He doesn't understand how the money's going to come back. He doesn't understand how to put the production together for the tour. Like, people don't understand that labels, as much as I think that there's probably 150 to 200 people not doing shit over there, there is 100 doing something. And those 100 people are a team. And if you do want to be a superstar and all-star and you want to deal with budgets like that and money like that, you need a major label. Or some type of entity that understands how the money, it's not just money. It's not just money. There has to be plans. There has to be things in order. There has to be people that understand, how production budgets are even broken down and things like that. But look, if you're going to be like Wilco and you're going to play like 2 nights at the, or what's the 2,000, 3,000 cap in Chicago, let's say 5 nights at the Vic Theater, you don't need them. We're getting in a place now where it's like, man, I would be totally content to play shows for 2,000. If I could get to the point in my life in the next 2 to 3 years where I'm selling 2,000 tickets per show, I would honestly, swear to God, not care if I get any bigger for the rest of my life. You are a millionaire if you know how to correctly position your money at that point. And you're playing for awesome crowds every night, because it's not like these little people in a sea. You can still talk to them. You can still be a normal human being. You don't have to be signed to a label. You can still live a normal life. And there's people that get around it, and I don't know how they get around it. Probably because they're in bands. Bands where it depends who. But like Dave Grohl can walk down the street, in 12 South, and some people are going to say hi to him. But like Justin Bieber goes down the street in 12 South, and there's a fucking parade. Yes. It's just a little bit different. And I personally, at this point in my life, have just been like, okay, I've dreamed for everything, and I wouldn't be mad if I turned into a superstar, obviously. But conservatively, I'm very happy if I only ever get to the point where, I'm selling mid-sized theaters out. And I'd be totally fine with that. Like, I'm still going to release music. I'm still going to tour. I'm still going to keep up to date on socials. But like, I'm already living my dream, and that's important to realize. You got to realize that. And that doesn't I oftentimes was bitching and moaning, and I still do sometimes, as you probably do, as everybody does. Fuck this. I'm just going to quit. I'm not doing this shit anymore. Fuck this. Too many headaches. But I love it. And there's nothing else.
I know nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, the only other shit that I would want to get into is like interior design, producing, maybe like painting, or like.
It's still all creative.
All creative shit.
All creative.
That's all going to be a headache.
It's all you know. It's all you know at this point. The thing is when you started to do, I guess, everything more in-house, independent. Yeah. It's you had to become more hands-on.
Yes.
And I think that triggered the lack of control that you had early on.
Yes.
That's why now you're loving the hands-on part, right?
Totally.
To me, that's where I'm at.
I love it.
Yeah.
Like I love steering the ship. Very much so. But I'm kind of just like that as well in life. Like I like going to a restaurant, and I'm not the type of guy, well, what do you guys want? I don't know. I'm like, we're gonna get this, that. Here you go. Here's the menu. Bring 2 bottles of red wine. I don't care what bottles.
Do you think sports and growing up playing sports has kind of helped has made you who you are through the
Yes. I think 2 things. One, yes, I think 100% because of camaraderie and team dynamics. And I also think because of discipline, which I'm lucky to have been in sports to have that at most times in my life. But there's the other side of it, which is also, I really wish that I knew what I knew now, which is going through all this process. Like I said, where I used to hold my tongue. I was like that in sports. My worry was always letting somebody down. And I had a friend of mine, my best friend, Jacob Schneider. He, this dude would be walking around the football field before I play, he'd smoke a J before the game. He'd go, he was, starting outside linebacker, he'd be, Schneider, his QB on the other side saying, ready, set, 1, 2, blue, 40, ready, set. And then right before it hit, right to his knees, right before it hit, in stance. And there was just never a fear in his mind ever of letting anybody down. He said, I'm out here for me. You know, and that was his, I don't know how he had it, just his family dynamic, how they were. His mom was at Dominican Republic, Dominican Jew. Get that. It's crazy. His father, she converted when she met his father. His father was an Italian Jew from New York. So both of them super loud family, like they don't give a fuck about nothing type of family. And I guess it was just how he was raised. But me, even though I came from a kind of bark family, like I said, I still always had this fear of letting somebody down. I had this fear of like, oh, I better not miss this fucking shot or better not that. And I think I was a great player, but I think if I would have had the mentality that I have now after going through all that label stuff, that if I could go back and play sports, that would have helped me as well. I think sports helped me get to where I am, but I also think where I am now would have helped me with sports because I would have just been, hey, I'm here for me. I'm not here. I'm here to play basketball, not to win the game, not to, of course I would like to, not to be the best player on the court, but I'm just here because I like playing basketball. And that was my friend's mentality always. I never understood. I still can't describe. I always wonder this. Where does drive come from? Some people are born with it. Yeah. Some people never have it. And some people learn it. I can't describe it because like my dad, he's from Port Arthur, Texas, poor, broke family, you know, was a great ball player, had to stop playing to go help the convenience store that his mother owned on the corner away from his house. His sister, who's like, I think 3 years or 4 years apart from him, same upbringing. I mean, obviously different on minor levels, but same upbringing, is still in Port Arthur, still living there, works a regular job, built her family there. Very average people. Average not in a bad way, just saying, you know, regular people. And my dad said, I got to get out of here. I got to build. I got to be an entrepreneur. This is, you know, it's just, I don't know how to describe why that happens, you know, and why certain people just have it and certain people don't, and certain people learn it. Certain people never learn it. Certain people are comfortable. And the one thing I used to always get on my dad, because he would get on me, is make your bed. Why do I need to make my fucking bed, man? I'm going to sleep in it tonight. Yeah. Fuck that. I'm not going to make my bed. I'm just going to it's going to get dirty again. He said, make your bed. I never used to listen. I would always like rebel against that, you know? Yeah. And then I started to realize as I got older into my 20s, and especially my mid-20s, obviously I started making my bed before that. But that was mainly because I didn't want to look like a slob for any girl that was interested. Yeah. But, you know, now I started paying attention the last 4 or 5 years to my dad, and especially the last 2 years. Like I said, once I've started to take all these things out and observe life really with a sober mind, I would see my dad at his house and like he'd cook on the stove and he'd cook the, you know, let's say ground beef. Let's say something even more dirty, like a sirloin that's splashing grease all over the place, right? He'd throw some butter on it, throw some rosemary, some garlic. I love food. I cook a lot. And then he'd put it on a plate. He'd chop it up. He'd eat it. And every time, he'd take that gas griddle, that's over the gas stove, take it off. He'd wipe it down. Yeah. Every fucking time he sees something on the ground, he would pick it up, throw it in the trash. It's just his mentality. And I started to realize, oh, this old man's doing this because this is discipline. Yeah. This allows him, this move to pick up this piece of, you know, let's say dog hair on the ground and throw it in the trash affects how he does business 6 hours from now.
It's funny you say that.
It's crazy.
You didn't get a chance to look, but my father is military. And if you look at every single bed in this house, the fact that I have 2 young boys, you wouldn't know. Yeah. I military make every bed myself. I have to. It's every single day.
But it helps you with everything else.
Everything else. And yes. I firmly believe how organized you are inside and outside is also, or you know, they say how you keep your outside of the house is how you are on your brain or whatever. I'm very organized.
Yes.
Individual.
I agree thoroughly. I don't care. And there's people that will argue this all day long. There's things that are just good for you. Yeah. Being clean and being organized are good for you. Yes. Period.
Now, some say that we have to be that way because in here,
Yeah.
it's all rattling around.
Probably true.
You see,
Yeah.
so we can keep some sense of control in our house and military tighten the bed because what's going on up in the dome is a little squirrely.
Yeah. But that's because of what we do. Like, you got to be crazy to make it in this industry. You have to be crazy. You have to have, I say this all the time, you got to love, you got to, like what we're talking about, you got to love what you do so much that you first believe in it, which is crazy enough.
Yep.
People don't realize.
With no backup.
With no backup.
This is it, all or nothing.
Yeah. And you can have as much, and not even backup in the way of monetary. You can have as much family money or, support or whatever. You still got to believe enough to put it out.
Yeah.
And say, whatever happens from this, I'm going to get judged one or two ways or three ways, either neutral, negative, or positive. And it's amazing because, like, I know people that I grew up with that are amazing singers or amazing players. Hey, dude, you should play, man. No, I can't do. I can't do that, man. I don't know how to start. I can't do it. Just start. I can't describe that. Yeah. I don't know, and I can't wait till one day, or maybe I don't want to find out. But I think it would be interesting if one day scientists find out why me, Jake, decided to chase it.
Yeah.
What was the leading factor? I have one thing that came to my mind.
I was going to ask it early on. What made you go?
I have one thing that it took me a long time to realize. My mom and me have a back and forth relationship. My mom's sober now, and so it's been a back and forth relationship, mainly primarily because of that. But now we're in a great space. I love my mom, very close to her. She's the only one of her family in the States. And now that my parents have been divorced since I've been 14, 15 years old, I'm her only relative in the States. So she relies on me quite a bit, which is fine. I love my mom. And I started to recently get close to her after sobriety was a thing and things like that. And, 2 years ago, a year ago, same thing. It all happens in this fucking order I can't describe. I don't know why. I had to go through that shit, and I had to drill myself before I started noticing all these other things. But my mom, when I was a young kid, like 6 years old, 6 years old, born in Key West, Florida, moved up to Naples, Florida, was too expensive, moved to Fort Myers. So when I was in Naples, I was going to public school, and the teacher, all I remember was looking on the board. I've said this before. All I remember was looking on the board and seeing all the kids' names, like, Max, Sam, Stan, Jake, whatever. Apples, 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 like one worm, apple. Apples, 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 one worm. Mine was like worm, 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 apple, worm, 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 worm. And like my mom brought, she came in later in the I think this was a pivotal moment. It had to be. And the teacher brought her in. I went to the principal's office, whatever. I don't remember this part, but my mom told me. And the teacher said, your son's not really paying attention in class. He's not doing well. He can't really, he's not being very observant of what we're teaching. And she said, okay, what is he? My mom's an immigrant at this point, like speaking broken English, She's like, okay, well, what is he doing? And she's like, he's drawing. He's, fiddling around with the paper, doing things like all creative things. Mm-hmm. And she said, okay. I was like, my mom comes from like USSR, like your hand's not in the right place. We're smacking you with a ruler. So she's like, I don't want him to go through that. So she's like, we suggest you put him on Ritalin. And my mom's like, oh, I don't know. My mom's very anti-drugs. She's like, I don't know. I'll think about it, whatever. She's like, I'm not doing it. She pulled me out. And for like 2 years or 3 years, she put me in Montessori school. And I remember like when I got there, I was under in reading. I was under in math. I was under in everything. I was like one of the quote unquote dumbest kids, And I didn't know how to I wasn't confident in my ability to draw out all I remember, this is the only thing I remember, to draw out, we were supposed to write like the timeline of history.
Okay.
And I couldn't do it. I was failing at doing it. And they're like, and the teacher came over because it was Montessori school and said, I don't remember her name, but she was hot. I remember that. And at least to me as a young boy.
Sure.
And she said, well, why don't you just draw it? Why don't you draw the pictures from the dinosaurs? And I think that 2-3 years of doing that, of them being like, no, it's cool. Like, here's your math. Like, here, let's use these little figures. Let's make it like a game, was pivotal.
Sounds like it would be.
I think it was pivotal. I think it was like and I look back and I remember being like, when I realized that, and I thanked my mom, I was like, I never said this because I didn't remember.
Wow.
But thank you so much for doing this, because I think that made a big impact in my life whenever we got to talking about it, because I think it showed me at a very early age, even though after that it got like more like Pop Warner football,
Sure.
AAU basketball, all this stuff. I think that pivotal moment of like 6 to 9 or 6 to 8, whatever it was so, it allowed me to be creative.
Yeah.
And to be like, no, it's okay to draw.
Yeah.
You know,
don't be reprimanded for something that's in your brain for, it feels right to you.
For a reason.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm very thankful. I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that both of my parents were very, as long as I did what I had to do, they were very open to whatever I wanted to do with my life. And I mean, my mom wasn't so hot whenever I dropped out of college and chased music. I don't think that was very realistic to her, because she said, I just wish my whole life to come to America so you can work at 7-Eleven, you know? But now she loves it. Now she's like, oh, my best friends, they love your music. And, oh, Jukubele. That's what they call me, right? Jacob Jakubas is what it is in Lithuanian. So I'm very thankful that as long as and again, I wasn't always perfect, but as long as I did my homework, I went to practice, I went, if they had me go to chess club or whatever it was, as long as I did all that stuff, when I was at home and I had my time, they let me do what I want. They said, you want to go play guitar? Go play guitar. Go in your room and I could play it like, as long as my dad couldn't hear it in his office, which was like the house was kind of like, my room was here, it was a guest room, my parents' room, his little den office. So as long as he couldn't hear it from here to here, I was good. And then one day I remember, this is the moment when I knew I was starting to get somewhere with it, which was also for my dad. Now we're very close.
Yeah.
My dad wasn't so good when I was young. He didn't know how to like interact with I have 3 half brothers, all the same. He doesn't know how to interact with like younger children. Once you get to like 16, he's like, hey,
what's up?
You want to drink a beer or what? He's that type of guy. So then you're best friends. And he came in when I was like 16. He's like, who was that playing? What was that? What'd you have? That was a song playing? I said, that was me, man. I was on guitar. I was playing. He said, it's all right.
All right.
He said, it's all right. And he walked out. That was his compliment. It's all right. And I was just like, I'll take it. I was like, that's some sort of constructive, positive reinforcement. And obviously now, like I said, we talk all the time, and like he's grown immensely as a person in the last 15 years too. But it always baffles me what, and I could be wrong, but to me, I think that early on stage in my life, going to Montessori school was probably a very pivotal moment. And I always think back to that now, and I go, whenever I become a father, let me make sure that I'm disciplined and that I'm strict, like we talked about. You gotta go make your bed. Yeah. But if you want to go do piano, you go do piano. Yeah. Or if you want to do this, and if I have to come in and the teacher is saying, okay, he's not paying attention to math. Well, okay, maybe he doesn't like math. Like, and I think that's the primary issue in our education system here too, in America, is like, and all across the world. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, not everybody's supposed to be an engineer, man.
Exactly.
Not everybody's supposed to be a writer either. Geez, I know some horrible artists, So I think it's a tough thing.
I think listening to you and having this conversation, I think your biggest superpower is your self-awareness, your self-reflection. The fact that you have been through, some struggles and some pitfalls. And without those, you wouldn't be, most importantly, as happy as you are today.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Everything in your life seems to have happened for a reason, but without that self-awareness, without that self-reflection, that dive you did, soul search, however word you want to use, that to me sounds like your biggest superpower, and I've learned incredible amount just by sitting here and talking with you. I mean,
Awesome.
this is immensely inspiring, and I thank you for taking some time out to come join our little show.
I love that it's in your house too. It made me feel very welcome immediately. Poured me the soda water.
Yeah, we got some soda water on my grandmother's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those were hers from. We inherited those. So.
And I think that can never stop. Just as a final thing, I think that self-reflection. What I learned is the people who are happiest never stop learning.
Yeah.
They never stop self-reflecting.
Absolutely. Bro.
Never stop working, whether it's golf or painting or being a lawyer, whatever it is. You never stop. You just got to always be open. You got to be open-minded to whatever's happening in life, because that train will leave you.
Yeah.
That train will leave you quick, and then you'll feel left behind. And
Scary. Man, thank you so much, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother.
It's been great.
It's been awesome.